It's week 9. Here's your starts and sits, and we'll start off with the quarterback position. And Daniel Jones, who's been fantastic, 22 plus points in 3 straight games. He's got the Steelers this week, and you would think, well, that's not a good matchup. The opposite is true. They've allowed the second most points per game to quarterbacks, and 5 have beaten them for over 19 points. So start Daniel Jones and start Jared Goff. You know, typically he's a fantasy star at Ford Field. He's averaging over 20 points per game in his last 20 home starts. And you've also got to love the matchup against the Vikings. Why? Their defense has given up an average of nearly 25 fantasy points to quarterbacks in their last 2 games. I think Goff should put up a nice stat line in this potential barn burner. The quarterbacks that I'm fading this week, and Bo Nix is on the list, and I get it. He's been fantastic. He has been great. Look at what he did to the Cowboys last week. But the matchup against the Texans is very difficult. Just 2 quarterbacks have scored more than 13.6 points against them this year, and quarterbacks are averaging 10.5 points per game. That's a league low. So Bo Nix could have a tough game this week. And in that same game, how about C.J. Stroud? And I was wrong about him last week. I didn't like him. He had a good game. He's had 18 plus points in 3 of his last 4. But Denver's defense is also very tough. They held Dak Prescott to just 6.6 points last week. And I know they won't have Patrick Surtain, but still, I think Stroud is probably better in Superflex leagues. At the running back position, let's go with DeAndre Swift. Again, I mean, he's been on fire over the last 3 weeks, averaging over 6 yards a carry, combining for 61.4 fantasy points. And this week, he's got the Bengals. They've given up double digits to 12 running backs this year, including 6 who've had more than 18 points. So DeAndre Swift is a good play. And so is Kimani Vidal. Listen, he's been great ever since Omarion Hampton went out. 19 plus points in 2 of 3 games. He's got the Titans this week. They've allowed 6 running backs to beat them for over 16 fantasy points. So Kimani Vidal is in my top 15 at the position this week. Running backs to sit, and I told you not to play him last week. It's Alvin Kamara. He's having the worst year of his career. He's averaging just over 10 points per game. He had just 6.5 points last week, and he's failed to score more than 9.5 points in 3 of his last 4 games. And this week, he's got the Rams, who've given up the second fewest points per game. Their running backs in game script could be an issue with a rookie quarterback going for the Saints. And Jordan Mason, another player to sit. Last week, Aaron Jones came back, and not only did he push Mason out of a starting job, he also had more touches in the game. And neither of these backs is a good play this week against the Detroit Lions. They've allowed 1 running back to beat them for more than 14 points this season. So Jordan Mason, Aaron Jones, not good plays in week 9. At the wide receiver position, well, we're going to go with a couple of juniors. First, Marvin Harrison Jr. And I get it. The numbers have not been great, but he's got the Cowboys this week. They have allowed the most points to perimeter receivers, and 8 receivers have beaten them for over 15 points, no matter what their alignment was at the line of scrimmage. So Harrison Jr. is a good play, and so is Michael Pittman Jr. He's quietly having a really good season, averaging right around 16 fantasy points per game. He has scored 20 plus points in 2 straight games, and he's got the Steelers this week. Their defense has allowed the 5th most points per game to wide receivers and the 3rd most points per game to the perimeter. So start Michael Pittman Jr. The sit-ems at wide receiver, and both of these players will probably be active in a lot of leagues. We do have 4 teams off, but I'm going to start with Courtland Sutton. And I get it. He is hard to sit, but I temper expectations against Houston. Again, their defense is great. They've allowed just 3 touchdowns to perimeter receivers, and only 2 have scored more than 12.9 points against them, regardless of their alignment. So this could be a bad week for Courtland Sutton. And the same goes for Jordan Addison, who quietly has been really good. He's averaging over 16 fantasy points per game this season. But J.J. McCarthy is back. And that really has me concerned because the quarterback did not look good in 7 of the 8 quarters he played earlier in the season. So I'm downgrading my Vikings this week. Start Jordan Addison and temper your expectations. The numbers may not be great. Moving on to the tight end position, and how can you not start Oronde Gadsden? I mean, he has been unbelievable over the last 3 weeks, scoring a combined 59.9 fantasy points. That's the 2nd most among tight ends at that time. And while the matchup isn't great on paper against Tennessee, I just don't care at this point. He is simply too hot to keep out of your starting lineup at a really thin position. And I'm also going to go with Kyle Pitts again. I told you to play him last week. He had 9 catches. He has now scored 13 plus points 3 times in his last 4 games. He's seen 19 targets in the last 2 weeks, and the Patriots have allowed 6 tight ends to beat them for over 11 points. So Pitts is a very good play, again, at a thin position. The tight ends I'm fading this week, Dalton Kincaid. I liked him last week. He was limited to 14 snaps. He only ran 13 routes. He's been dealing with an injury. I'm not sure if that was the cause for his limitations last week, but I don't love the matchup this week against the Chiefs. They've allowed just one tight end to beat them for more than 10 points this year. And Hunter Henry is another player that I'm fading. I told you not to play him last week. He scored a touchdown, but he still only had 7.3 points. And he's now been held to single digits in 4 straight games. And I don't love the matchup against Atlanta. Their defense has not allowed a tight end to beat them for more than 8.9 points this season. So Hunter Henry needs to stay on your bench.